Surveys indicated it would be close as Scots went to the polls to decide whether to break away from Britain. But in the end, the no supporters won out, with 55% of Scotland's registered voters choosing to stay in the United Kingdom.
For the pro-independence camp, a narrow but crushing defeat. For the British government, a large measure of relief. And watching it all unfold was VOA's Henry Ridgwell, who joins us right now from London. Thank you so much for joining us, Henry.
Great to be here, Imran.
Yes, Henry, it's great to have you. Henry, this was a vote with extreme implications for Britain. What was the mood like in London ahead of this historic referendum?
Well, it was a very strange atmosphere. As you say, it was a referendum that really could have changed one of the most ancient democracies that the world has known. And yet, in the 2 years from when the referendum was agreed, right up until 2 weeks before the date it was due to be held, we didn't see much at all about it in the media here. There were debates here and there, but really everyone was focused on other global issues like Russia, Ukraine, things like that. And then suddenly, 2 weeks before the referendum was due to be held, there was a poll that came out that showed a large swing towards the yes camp, the yes to independence, that 51% were going to vote yes and 49% going to vote no. And then there was a big panic here in London. Politicians of all political colours went up to Scotland to try and appeal to save the Union, because all three of the main political parties here supported the Union and wanted to keep Scotland part of it. So we saw a real 2 weeks of panic, of offers of devolution, of greater autonomy offered to the Scottish people if only they would vote against going independent, which of course they did in the end, as you've mentioned, by a margin of 10%.
Henry, if I may ask you, are you a Londoner?
I am a Londoner. I was born just outside and lived much of my life here, yes.
Okay, then tell me honestly, what were the Londoners expecting?
You know, again, they were taken by surprise, I think. London can very often feel like an island on its own. Behind me you see the skyline, all the functions of government are here. You've got the City of London, Canary Wharf, and the huge amounts of political wealth and economic wealth that generates. And so London is really seen as one of those world cities that is almost a state on its own. And people like to know they're part of the United Kingdom, but it really does feel different here. And so suddenly, again, when this poll came through and when the reality struck that, 1/3 of the United Kingdom, if you like, or of the British Isles might be carved away and become independent, there was some shock here. And really, some people were thinking about the history of it more than the economics, I think. As I say, in London, people lead their own lives. There's a lot of wealth. People weren't so concerned about the economics here. It was more about that history, that 300 years of union, and before that, the battles that were fought in medieval times between English kings and Scottish independence warriors, William Wallace, things like that. So there was a lot of history thrown around, a lot of debate about the economics.
Right, now let's turn to the Scottish side of things, Henry. What were the issues at the forefront of Scots' minds as they went to the polls for this?
I think you've got three camps here, as in most elections. There were those who were committed to the yes to independence camp all along, those who were dead against it all along, and then a portion of swing voters who decided the result. For those in the yes camp, I think they just have always very much seen Scotland as a separate country with different needs, different wants and different economic circumstances to the rest of the United Kingdom. And they always thought that Scotland would prosper and do better on its own, but also that the Scottish people are different, that Scotland had its own identity and it should be recognised in a constitution. For the no camp, they were committed unionists, many of them probably either born or with family in England or other parts of the United Kingdom, and who saw the benefits of being in a union and certainly didn't want to hive off and be independent with all the risks that might have gone with it. Those in the middle, I think, were more focused on the economics, and that is where the battle was really fought in the end.
VOA's Henry Ridgwell in London. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Henry.
Thanks, Imran. Thanks, Alex.